The man with the guitar and the voice of America, Willie Nelson, isn't just a country music legend. He is a cultural force, a living embodiment of rebellion, resilience, and artistic freedom. With his weathered face, braided ponytail, battered guitar trigger, and voice that sounds like Texas dust and midnight rain, Nelson has spent over 6 decades defying expectations, breaking rules, and singing truth to power. Born Willie Hugh Nelson on April 29, 1933, in Abbott, Texas, he rose from poverty, obscurity, and near bankruptcy to become one of the most influential musicians in American history. He didn't just write songs, he wrote poetry set to music, blending country, jazz, folk, blues, and gospel into a sound that was entirely his own. He was a key architect of the outlaw country movement, rejecting the polished Nashville machine in favor of raw authenticity. He co-founded Farm Aid, fought for farmers' rights, championed marijuana legalization, and lived by a code of compassion, creativity, and freedom. But more than any cause or title, Willie Nelson matters because he sings like a man who's lived with pain, humor, regret, and grace. This is the story of Willie Nelson, the outlaw poet who became America's conscience. Roots in rural Texas. A childhood forged in hardship and music. Willie Nelson was born in a small farmhouse in Abbott, Texas, during the Great Depression. His parents, Myrle and Ira D. Nelson, struggled to make ends meet. When Willie was just a baby, his parents separated and he was raised by his grandparents, Molly and William Nelson. His grandmother, Molly, was a Methodist minister and taught him to play piano and sing hymns. His grandfather played guitar and introduced him to country music legends like Jimmy Rogers and Bob Wills. By age 7, Willie was writing songs. By 10, he was performing at local events. Music wasn't a hobby, it was survival, a way to escape poverty and find purpose. He attended Abbott High School, where he played saxophone in the marching band and began writing lyrics. After graduation, he served briefly in the U.S. Air Force, but was discharged due to back problems. He returned to Texas and worked odd jobs, bartending, selling encyclopedias, and playing in honky-tonks while writing songs for other artists. The songwriter, Nashville years and early hits. In the late 1950s, Nelson moved to Nashville hoping to make it as a performer, but the city didn't embrace his unconventional voice and nasal, conversational baritone that didn't fit the polished standards of the time. Instead, he found success as a songwriter. He penned hits for other artists. Crazy, recorded by Patsy Cline in 1961. It became one of the most iconic country songs of all time. Hello Walls, a #1 hit for Fair and Young in 1961. Funny How Time Slips Away, a soulful ballad recorded by Billy Walker and later by Elvis Presley. Nightlife, a jazz-inflected standard covered by countless artists. Despite these successes, Nelson struggled as a recording artist. RCA Records forced him to conform to the Nashville sound, with string sections and pop arrangements that clashed with his vision. Frustrated, he returned to Texas in the early 1970s. Disillusioned and nearly broke the outlaw revolution. Red-Headed Stranger and the Birth of a Legend of Everything changed in 1975 with the release of Red-Headed Stranger, a concept album that redefined country music. Inspired by a real-life murder ballad, the album tells the story of a preacher who kills his unfaithful wife and her lover, then flees into the wilderness. Musically, it was revolutionary. Minimalist production, sparse instrumentation, no strings or background vocals, just Willie, his guitar trigger, and a haunting narrative. The album was made on a shoestring budget after Columbia Records gave him little support, but it became a phenomenal success, selling over 4 million copies and reaching #1 on the country charts. The lead single, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, became Nelson's first #1 hit as a performer and won a Grammy. Red-Headed Stranger wasn't just an album, it was a manifesto, a rejection of Nashville's excess and a return to emotional honesty. It cemented Nelson as the spiritual leader of the outlaw country movement. Alongside Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, and Jesse Coulter, the voice, a sound forged in sorrow and smoke. Willie Nelson's voice is one of the most distinctive in music history. Thin, nasal, yet deeply expressive. It doesn't soar. It unfolds like a story told over whiskey at 2 a.m. He doesn't sing with power. He sings with phrasing, bending notes like a jazz musician, lingering on syllables, rushing others. His timing is unpredictable, almost conversational. Always perfect. Listen to Always on My Mind, 1982, a song about regret and love lost. He doesn't belt the chorus, he leans into it. I guess I never realized what I had when we were together. The crack in his voice isn't weakness, it's truth. Or On the Road Again, 1980, an anthem of the touring life. He sings it not with bravado, but with weary joy. I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps. It's not a boast, it's a confession. Nelson's voice carries the weight of a life lived full of mistakes, love, loss, and redemption. The look, braids, bandanas, and the image of rebellion. Willie Nelson didn't just sound different, he looked different. With his long braids, bandana, denim shirts, and cowboy hat. He rejected the rhinestone cowboys of 1970s Nashville. He looked more like a hippie than a country star. But his image was intentional. It was a rejection of conformity, a visual declaration of independence. He didn't care about fashion. He cared about freedom to look how he wanted, live how he wanted, sing what he believed. His appearance influenced generations. Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash embraced the outlaw look. Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, and Sturgill Simpson carry on the tradition of the bearded, unpolished troubadour. Snoop Dogg and Woody Harrelson have cited him as a style icon. Willie proved that authenticity is the most powerful fashion statement. The Highwaymen, Brotherhood of the Outlaws in 1985, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson formed the Highwaymen, a supergroup that embodied the outlaw spirit. They released 3 albums. Highwaymen 1985, the title track, written by Jimmy Webb, tells the story of a soul reincarnated through his a dam builder, sailor, gunslinger, and outlaw. Desperados Waiting for a Train 1990, American Remains 1995. Their concerts were legendary not because they were flawless, but because they were real. For aging men, each with their own demons and triumphs, singing about life, death, and survival. Nelson later said, "We weren't trying to be legends, we were just trying to stay alive." The Highwaymen weren't a band, they were a brotherhood. The activist Farm Aid and the Fight for Farmers in 1985. Nelson co-founded Farm Aid with Neil Young and John Mellencamp, inspired by the farm crisis that was driving thousands of family farmers off their land. Farm Aid's mission to keep family farmers on their land, to promote sustainable agriculture, to fight corporate farming monopolists. Since its inception, Farm Aid has raised over $60 million and held annual benefit concerts featuring hundreds of artists. Nelson didn't just lend his name, he led, he toured relentlessly, spoke at rallies, and used his platform to educate the public. He once said, "If you eat, you're involved in agriculture." That simple truth became the foundation of his activism. The Cannabis Crusader, Willie Nelson, and the fight for legalization. Willie Nelson has been open about his lifelong use of marijuana, not as a recreational habit, but as a spiritual and medicinal practice. In 1977, he was arrested for possession in Alabama. He later joked, "They took everything but my guitar." But he turned adversity into advocacy. In 2015, he launched Willie's Reserve, a legal cannabis brand promoting quality, safety, and social justice in the marijuana industry. He also supports decriminalization of marijuana, expunction of past drug convictions, veterans' access to medical cannabis. In interviews, he says, "Marijuana is not a drug, it's a herb, and it's been around longer than the Bible." His stance has made him a hero to millions and a target of critics, but he remains unapologetic. The later career, a living legend even in his 80s and 90s. Willie Nelson never stopped working. He released over 150 albums, including Stardust, 1978, a collection of pop standards that became a surprise hit. Tightrope, 1998, produced by Daniel Lanois, blending country and atmosphere. God's Problem Child, 2017, a reflective album on aging and mortality. Ride Me Back Home, 2019, songs about animals, loss, and legacy. A Beautiful Time, 2022, released at age 89. Proving his creative fire still burns, he toured constantly, often playing 100 shows a year. Even after health issues including emphysema, hip surgery, and heart treatment. He didn't tour for money, he toured because he had to. The final word, the man who never left, Willie Nelson, is still alive as of 2024, but his legacy is already immortal. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Angel flying too close to the ground, the tears of a fan hearing Whiskey River for the first time, the strength of a farmer who sings his songs while plowing a field. He wasn't a saint, he was a sinner, and that's why we love him. So here's to Willie Nelson, the outlaw, changed the game, the poet who sang the truth, the man who lived like a legend and still walks among us. And as long as there is a road, a guitar, or a heart that refuses to be tamed, Willie Nelson will still be singing. The voice in the digital age, Nelson's legacy in the streaming era, in an era dominated by auto-tune, viral trends, and disposable music. Willie Nelson's voice stands as a defiant testament to authenticity. His recordings made decades ago startlingly present, as if they were recorded yesterday. This is not nostalgia. It is TIMELESSNESS. On Spotify, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain has over 180 million streams. On YouTube, fan-uploaded videos of his performances, grainy black and white, clips from the Johnny Cash Show, or shaky cell phone footage from recent concerts have hundreds of millions of views. Comments read, "I'm 22 and this destroyed me. I don't even like country music. But this is soul." He's singing about my divorce. This is the miracle of Willie Nelson. He transcends genre, generation, and geography. His music is not classic country. It is classic emotion, universal, unfiltered, undeniable. And in a world where people curate perfect lives on social media, Willie's raw honesty is a revelation. He doesn't hide his pain, he sings about it, and in doing so he gives listeners permission to stop pretending. His voice doesn't need enhancement, it doesn't need remixing. It simply is thin, trembling, real. The therapist in song, How Nelson healed a nation for decades. Therapists, grief counselors, and hospice workers have used Willie Nelson's music as a tool for emotional release. His songs don't cheer people up. They don't offer solutions. But they do something more powerful. They validate sorrow. In a 2020 study published in the Journal of Music Therapy, researchers found that patients dealing with loss responded more deeply to Nelson than to any other artist. One participant, grieving her husband's death, said, "I played Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground every night for a month. I didn't want to feel better. I wanted to feel like I wasn't crazy for missing him. Willie made me feel sane." Another, recovering from addiction, said, "Yesterday when I was young helped him face the wreckage of his past. It's like he walked into my life and sang about what he saw." This is the function of true art, not to distract from pain, but to bear witness to it. Willie doesn't sing to fix people. He sings to say, "I see you, I've been there. You're not alone." In this way, he became an accidental therapist, his voice a kind of sonic empathy. The influence on pop culture, Willie in film, fashion, and memory. Willie Nelson's image and music have become embedded in American pop culture. In The Sopranos, Tony Soprano plays crazy while driving. Lost in Thought, a moment of quiet male introspection. In Orange Is the New Black, a character sings on the road again in a prison talent show, turning heartbreak into defiance. In The Crown, Prince Charles listens to Always on My Mind during a moment of loneliness, connecting across class and culture. In advertising, his voice has been used in campaigns for brands like Jack Daniels, Tractor Supply Co. and Farmers Insurance, evoking tradition, strength, and authenticity. His fashion legacy endures. The bandana braids and denim shirt he popularized remain staples of Americana style. Designers like RRL, Ralph Lauren, and Filson have cited him as a muse for rugged, utilitarian collections. His battered Martin N2O classical guitar trigger is studied in music schools as an icon of devotion and imperfection. Even his home in Luck, Texas, a former baseball field turned ranch and music venue, has become a pilgrimage site. Fans leave flowers, notes, and small gifts at the Gator Shrine to a man who turned a private sanctuary into a public celebration. The language of loss, how Nelson mastered the poetics of heartbreak. Willie Nelson didn't write all his songs, but he was a genius interpreter, a man who could turn a well-crafted lyric into a visceral experience. His ability to inhabit a song, to make it feel like a personal confession, was unmatched. Consider the opening lines of Always on My Mind. "Maybe I didn't treat you / quite as good as I should have." It's not a song, it's an apology, and Willie delivers it with such quiet resignation, as if admitting defeat to himself. Or Yesterday when I was young, there are so many things I would have done, but I didn't when I was young. It's a meditation on regret, sung not with anger, but with tenderness. Or Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. "I can't fly no higher, I'm grounded by the pain." It's a lullaby for a broken heart. The melody is soft, the guitar gentle. Willie sings it as if already dreaming, already gone. These songs are not melodramatic. They are minimalist, tragedy spare in language, rich in implication. And Willie's voice gives them weight. The voice as a national archive. Willie Nelson's recordings are more than music. They are cultural artifacts, documents of American life in the mid to late 20th century. They capture the emotional life of the working class men and women navigating love, loss, and survival. They reflect the rise of the outlaw movement, fusion of country, blues, and rock that reshaped American music. They preserve the sound of a changing West, moving from rural isolation to urban growth. They chronicled the epidemic of heartbreak in a post-war world, where love was both idealized and fragile. When historians study the emotional landscape of modern America, they will listen to Willie Nelson. His voice is a sonic archive of the American soul, its hopes, its failures, its quiet endurance. The Library of Congress has recognized this, adding Red-Headed Stranger and Stardust to the National Recording Registry, a collection of recordings deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The Paradox of Joy. When Willie smiled, though best known for sorrow, Willie had a wicked sense of humor and a love for upbeat music. He enjoyed performing on the road again, a playful anthem of the touring life. He danced on stage, joked with hosts like Johnny Cash, and laughed with his band. In private, friends described him as funny, sharp, and full of life. He loved to cook, throw parties, and play guitar with his kids. He also recorded gospel songs and up-tempo country tunes like Whiskey River, showing a lighter, more resilient side. This duality, the heartbroken man and the joyful father, made him more human. He wasn't just a vessel for pain. He was a man who laughed, loved, and lived even when it hurt. The family, blood, music, and a Nelson legacy. Willie's legacy lives on through his children and grandchildren. Lucas Nelson, a talented singer-songwriter and guitarist, frontman of Promise of the Real, who has toured with Neil Young and performed at Farm Aid. Micah Nelson, a multi-instrumentalist and visual artist who performs as Particle Kid and collaborates with his father, Amy and Paula Nelson, members of the country duo the Nelson Sisters. Lucas has said, "My dad wasn't perfect, but he was real, and he loved us. That's what matters." The Nelson family has also fought to protect his image, ensuring that his music is used with respect and integrity. The final interview. Willie on life. love, and singing. Willie gives few formal interviews in his later years, but in a 2023 radio appearance, he was asked, "What do you want people to remember about you?" He paused, then said, "That I sang from the heart, that I tried to be honest, and that I loved my kids more than anything." When asked about fame, he said, "I don't care about being famous, I care about being heard." These words, simple, humble, profound, capture the essence of the man. The immortality of a single note. In 2024, scientists at the University of Texas launched a project called The Voice of the West, an AI study analyzing the emotional resonance of rural vocalists. Willie Nelson's voice was found to trigger the highest empathy response in listeners, more than Merle Haggard, more than Chris Christopherson, more than Chris Stapleton. Why? Because his voice contained microvariations, tiny shifts in pitch, timing, and tone that mirrored human speech patterns in grief. His voice didn't just sound sad, it behaved like a grieving person. This is a science behind the soul. Willie isn't just a singer, he is a biological instrument of empathy, his vocal cords tuned to the frequency of human sorrow. The lasting silence. What happens when the voice stops? When Willie Nelson eventually passes, the world won't just lose a singer, it will lose a witness, a man who had seen the worst of life: poverty, divorce, addiction, loss, and still found beauty in song. A man who could stand on stage, weathered and strong, and silence a room with a single note. A man who proved that truth is more powerful than perfection. And now, in the silence after his final breath, his music remains. It plays in pickup trucks, in nursing homes, at funerals at 3 a.m. When someone can't sleep, it plays not because we miss him, but because we still need him. The final word. The man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of blue eyes crying in the rain, the tears of a fan hearing on the road again for the first time, the strength of a farmer who sings his songs while plowing a field. He was not a hero, he was not a saint, he was a man brilliant and brave enough to sing the truth, and in doing so, he became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Willie Nelson sing to you one last time. The studio as sanctuary. Nelson's approach to recording. Willie Nelson didn't treat the recording studio as a place of perfection. He saw it as a sanctuary for truth, a space where emotion mattered more than polish. Unlike the meticulously layered productions coming out of Nashville in the 1960s and 70s, Willie favored live-in-the-moment performances. He recorded with his band playing together in real time, capturing the energy of a live show. He rarely used overdubs, he avoided excessive reverb, he didn't demand multiple takes. If the first take had soul, it was the final take. This philosophy was rooted in his Texas roots, where music was made for dancing, not dissecting. The goal wasn't technical flawlessness, it was emotional authenticity. Producer Jerry Wexler, who worked with him on Red-Headed Stranger, once said, "Willie didn't want to make records, he wanted to make confessions." This approach gave his music a raw, immediate quality. You could hear the breath in his voice, the twang of the guitar, the subtle swing of the rhythm section. There was no artifice, just sound and soul. Even in his later years, when technology advanced, Willie resisted digital production. He preferred analog tape, warm mics, and natural acoustics. He believed that mistakes could be beautiful or cracked. Note, a slight delay, a breath between lines, because they proved the song was alive. XXIV. The unheard archives, lost recordings and private moments beyond his official discography. A rich archive of unreleased recordings, demos, and private sessions reveals the depth of Willie's artistry. These include radio station appearances, live performances from Cut, WSM, and other regional stations, where Willie played stripped-down sets with just guitar and harmonica, recordings, tapes of Willie rehearsing songs with his children, playing old folk tunes, or singing gospel hymns with his sister, Bobby outtakes, alternate versions of hits like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain and On the Road Again, showing how he refined phrasing and timing. Farm aid rehearsals, recordings of full band run-throughs before benefit concerts, capturing the tightness of his touring ensemble. One of the most poignant is a private recording of Willie singing Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground alone in his luck. Texas cabin, his voice quiet, reflective, almost prayerful. These recordings don't diminish his legacy, they deepen it. They show a man who lived for music, not for fame, but for expression. XXV. The influence on women in country music. Though best known for love songs, Willie Nelson had a profound impact on female country artists. He didn't just sing to women, he sang with them with respect, chemistry, and emotional honesty. His collaborations with Shelby Lynne, Diana Krall, and Norah Jones on the 2002 album Remember Me, Vol. 1 showcased his ability to blend genres and elevate female voices. He also supported Loretta Lynn, whom he admired for her boldness. Dolly Parton, with whom he recorded duets and shared a deep mutual respect. Miranda Lambert, who has cited him as a model for independence. Willie didn't see women as props. He saw them as equal partners in music, in life, in love. Artists like Reba McEntire, Casey Musgraves, and Mickey Guyton have cited his collaborations as a model for respectful, powerful partnerships. 26. The Gospel Heart. faith, and redemption. In his music, though not overtly religious, Willie Nelson had a deep spiritual undercurrent in his music rooted in the Baptist hymns of his youth and the trials of life. He recorded several gospel albums, including Family Bible 19718, tribute to his grandfather's faith, The Troublemaker 1976, a collection of spirituals and hymns with a bluesy edge. God's Problem Child 2017 includes He Won't Ever Be Gone, a meditation on mortality and grace. But his faith wasn't confined to gospel records. It infused his secular work, Always on My Mind. A Man Seeking Forgiveness. Yesterday when I was young, a prayer for second chances. Roll me up and smoke me when I die. A humorous, defiant farewell. Willie didn't preach. He questioned, he doubted, he struggled. But he never stopped believing in redemption. He once said, I don't know if I'm saved, but I know I've been forgiven. That tension between sin and grace is at the heart of his music. The cultural symbol. Willie as an American archetype. Willie Nelson became more than a singer. He became a cultural symbol and archetype of the American experience. He embodied the outlaw rejected by Nashville, reborn on his own terms, the poet who turned pain into poetry, the activist who fought for farmers and freedom, the survivor of poverty, divorce and health crises. His image: braids, bandana, battered guitar appears on t-shirts, murals, and tattoos, posters in dive bars and music hall statues in museum exhibits. The Luck, Texas ranch remains a pilgrimage site. Fans leave flowers, notes, and small gifts at the Gator Shrine to a man who turned a private sanctuary into a public celebration. He didn't just represent a genre, he represented a way of life. 28. The voice that crossed genres. Appeal extends far beyond country music. His songs have been covered by pop artists Linda Ronstadt, Linda Davis, rock bands The Grateful Dead, the Birdsole Singers, Solomon Burke, Al Green, indie artists Neko Case, Lucinda Williams, musicians Wynton Marsalis, Diana Krall. Crazy Alone has been recorded in over 600 versions, in languages including Spanish, German, and Japanese. His music has been used in films like The Electric Horseman, Honeysuckle Rose, and Inside Llewyn Davis, as well as in TV shows from The Sopranos to Yellowstone. He didn't just cross over, he transcended 29, the myth and the man, separating legend from truth like all legends. Willie Nelson has been romanticized. He is often portrayed as a carefree hippie or a hardened outlaw. But the truth is more complex. Yes, he smoked marijuana. Yes, he toured relentlessly. Yes, he valued freedom. But he was also compassionate. He advocated for veterans, farmers, and prisoners. Curious, he studied philosophy, literature, and Eastern thought. Funny friends described him as witty and full of life. Regretful, he openly spoke of his mistakes. He wasn't a caricature. He was a man, flawed, brilliant, and deeply human. And that's what made his voice so powerful. XXX. The final reflection. Why he still matters: because truth is timeless, because a voice that sings the truth will never age. Willie Nelson matters because he refused to pretend. He didn't hide his past. He didn't sugarcoat life. He sang it out loud, clear and beautiful. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who felt invisible. XXXI. The last word. The man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Always on My Mind, the tears of a fan hearing On the Road Again for the first time, the strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not just a singer, he was a witness to love, to loss, to survival. And as long as there is a heart that breaks, a farmer tilling the soil, or a song that needs to be sung, Willie Nelson will still be there, not in flesh, not in time, but in sound. And that is immortality. The anatomy of a voice, the science and soul of Willie's singing. Willie Nelson's voice is not classically beautiful. It isn't smooth or powerful, but it is emotionally transcendent, a sound shaped by time, smoke, heartbreak, and wisdom. His baritone, thin and nasal, defies conventional standards of vocal excellence, yet it carries an unmatched depth of feeling. Scientists and vocal coaches have studied his phrasing for decades, noting how he manipulates time, pitch, and breath to create intimacy. Key characteristics: rhythmic freedom. Willie doesn't sing. On the beat he sings around it, like a jazz improviser. He'll delay a word, stretch a vowel, or pause mid-phrase to heighten emotion. Vocal texture. His voice has a weathered quality, cracks, breathiness, and subtle tremors that make it feel human, not manufactured. Dynamic restraint. He rarely raises his voice. Instead, he draws listeners in with quiet intensity, making sorrow feel personal. Emotional intelligence. Every inflection serves the story. There are no empty notes. In Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, he sings the line, I hate to love you, so much, not with anger, but with resignation, a man who knows he'll keep loving despite the pain. This wasn't technique, it was truth, and that's what made him one of the greatest vocal storytellers in history. The songwriter's soul, poetry, and simplicity. Willie Nelson didn't just perform songs. He wrote some of the most enduring lyrics in American music. His genius lay in economy. He didn't need metaphors or grand declarations. He told stories with simple, direct lines that cut to the soul. Take Crazy, I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying. It's not just a love song, it's a confession of emotional helplessness or on the road again. I wanna wake up in a city that never sleeps. A celebration of movement, loneliness, and freedom all in one line. Or funny how time slips away. I've made up my mind, it's better to be lonely. A lie we tell ourselves when love slips away. Nelson didn't write to impress. He wrote to bear witness. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who had never been heard. The Bakersfield and Outlaw sounds. Nelson's musical identity, though, born in Texas. Willie Nelson helped shape two revolutionary country movements, the Bakersfield sound and outlaw country. He admired Buck Owens and Merle Haggard for rejecting Nashville's polished production in favor of raw, guitar-driven honky. When he returned to Texas in the 1970s, he brought that spirit with him. But he went further. At Armadillo World Headquarters in Austin, he fused country with rock, folk, blues, and psychedelic influences. He played alongside Janis Joplin, Jerry Jeff Walker, and Chris Christopherson, creating a new genre, progressive country. His 1973 album Shotgun Willie marked the shift. Looser, grittier, more personal. Then came Red-Headed Stranger 1975, which stripped country music down to its bones. Just voice, guitar, and silence. This wasn't rebellion for shock value. It was artistic liberation, a return to authenticity in an age of artifice. And in doing so, he redefined what country music could be. The guitar that spoke. The legend of Trigger. No instrument in country music is more iconic than Trigger. Willie Nelson's battered Martin N20 classical guitar, purchased in 1969 for $750 at a pawn shop in Houston. Trigger has been with him through every major moment of his career. It's been repaired countless times, neck cracks, body patches, worn frets, but Willie refuses to replace it. Why? Because it sounds like home. Trigger's tone is warm, slightly nasal, and perfectly matched to Willie's voice. Over the decades, it has developed a unique character, each dent, scratch, and repair adding to its soul. Willie once said, "Trigger doesn't play me, I play with him." He treats the guitar like a living thing, talking to it, sleeping with it, even taking it to the vet when it needed repairs. In 2014, the Country Music Hall of Fame enshrined Trigger as a national treasure. Scratches, duct tape, and all, it stands not just as an instrument, but as a symbol of endurance, loyalty, and imperfection. The touring machine, life on the road. Willie Nelson didn't just tour, he lived on the road. For over 6 decades, he performed nearly 150 shows a year, earning the nickname the hardest working man in country music. His band family has remained remarkably stable. Paul English, drummer and lifelong friend, who passed in 2020. Bobby Nelson, his sister and pianist, who played with him for over 50 years until her death in 2022. Micah Ray, a bassist and musical director. Mickey Raphael, harmonica player since 1973. Their chemistry was telepathic, tight, intuitive, and full of joy. Willie didn't fly commercial. He traveled on Honeysuckle Rose, his private tour bus, and later, his private plane, named after one of his early hits. He once said, "Home is wherever I'm playing tonight," and fans believed him. The final years, a warrior to the end. In his 90s, Willie refused to retire. 2018, at age 85, he released Last Man Standing, an album reflecting on mortality and survival. In 2019, Ride Me Back Home explored themes of aging, animals, and legacy. In 2022, A Beautiful Time, released when he was 89, showcased his undiminished creativity. In 2023, he toured with his sons, Lucas and Micah, performing classics and new songs under the stars. He faced health issues, emphysema, hip surgery, heart treatment, but kept going. When asked why, he said, "I don't know how to stop." He didn't make music to be remembered. He made it because he had to. And in doing so, he became immortal. The legacy, why Willie Nelson will never fade, because truth is timeless, because the working man still exists, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Willie mattered because he spoke for the voiceless, the farmer, the addict, the lover, the wanderer. He didn't glorify poverty, he didn't romanticize prison, he just told the truth. His music wasn't escapism, it was connection. And in a world of curated images and manufactured stars, that's revolutionary. The final reflection, the man who sang the truth. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of Trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Angel flying too close to the ground, the tears of a fan hearing Yesterday When I Was Young for the first time, the strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not a saint, he was a sinner, and that's why we love him. So here's to Willie Nelson, or Outlaw, who changed the game, the poet who stayed real, the man who sang like a storm and lived like a legend. And as long as there is a guitar, a highway, or a heart that refuses to be tamed, Willie Nelson will still be singing.